Hello and welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. This is sort of a special edition in part because my wife is actually working from home and on a meeting in the other room, so we're going to be doing a super quiet exercise. But this is also a really, really great exercise, and it actually comes from a video I saw of Steve Williamson, who is the principal clarinetist of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And it was a video where he was visiting the Van Doren studio. And I'll put a link in the description on YouTube and in the comments on Facebook and stuff after this is over of the original video of him explaining and doing this exercise. But I want to go a little bit more in depth about like what the benefits of this exercise are, in addition to sharing what it actually is. So this exercise is an interesting sort of warm-up exercise where it doesn't really fall neatly into like one of my like three categories of warm-ups with like the long tones, technique, or articulation. It's sort of in that gray area of long tone and articulation, which is great. I love those kind of exercises where it's, again, really focusing on starting notes and also getting exactly the tone you want right at the beginning of the notes. So what he describes this as is it's really good for practicing soft attacks, which happens all the time in orchestral music, where you have to just come in very soft and very delicately, sort of out of nowhere, maybe sometimes even after like many measures of rest, and you just have to like play the note. Orchestra music is notorious for that, and Steve Williamson does a great job of nailing those entrances every time. And this exercise is part of what helps with that. I also think this exercise is sort of a voicing exercise in general. It really helps us to make sure that we have our tongue position just right, our embouchure pressure just right, and our air pressure just right. So let me go ahead and demonstrate this exercise, and then I'll talk through a bit more of what it's all about. So basically what we're going to be doing is playing a chromatic scale, but we're just going to play like the tiniest bit of sound on each note while maintaining a good sort of cushion of air the whole time. So let me demonstrate, and then I'll explain the details a bit more. And you can keep even going up in the video. He goes all the way up to the super C above that one. But for now, I'll just do that. So you can hear how, hopefully you can hear over the microphone that my air is going the entire time. And you can actually hear, like, as I'm changing the fingering, like you can almost hear in the air the pitch that's going to come out. And that's sort of the goal of this, because if you have your air like right in the right position, then that means that your voicing is just right to get that note out. And then all you have to do is just energize the air a little bit or bump up the air pressure a little bit, and then the note like pops out. So as we're going, we sort of have this like baseline of air, and then we're just bumping it up just past like what I call like the threshold of like minimum air pressure for the note. So say like every note requires this much air pressure. We're sort of hanging out just below that, so we're not really getting a note, we're getting that airy sound where we can hear the note, and then we just bump it up above that for just a moment and get that little puff of sound. And you can hear on in between every single note that that air is still supporting. So this is a great way to practice having good air support continuing as you're playing and as you're tonguing, because that's super important whenever we're tonguing. And it's also a great way to sort of test your voicing, especially as you get into the higher notes. You'll be able to hear even in the air if that note's going to come out right. If you have like you can like hear the airs in the right position, whereas if it's in the wrong position, and you might have where you have to adjust things as you change your air, or you get like that saggy, flat, spread sound. So this exercise is absolutely fantastic for really being able to know exactly what kind of air pressure it takes to get the notes out that you need to get out whenever you have those sneaky, soft entrances, whether it's in orchestral music, band music, solo music, they come up all over the place. The one extra little bonus advanced thing for this is you can actually do this with tonguing. So in this case, like I wasn't tonguing at all, which is why like this is kind of an articulation exercise, but we're not actually moving our tongue, which is odd. So that's why I call it like a voicing exercise, sort of half long tone, half articulation. But you can actually add your tongue in and see if you can like have your tongue on the reed, but still be aiming the air for that right voicing. And then just have that little bit of release without your tongue disturbing the voicing so that you get really clean, crisp notes. So in this way, you don't hear as much of the air going in between because the tongue is actually on the reed and stopping that air sound from happening. But if I were to leak, you would still hear the air going. So no matter how we're tonguing, the air always is supporting and is ready right when the tongue releases or right when you need the note to happen. The voicing is there, the air position, the air pressure, the embouchure pressure, all of that is steady and ready to go to give you the best sound right from the very beginning of the note. I hope this was helpful. Be sure to check the comments or the description if you're on YouTube to see the link to the original video of Steve Williamson demonstrating this exercise at the Van Doren studio right here in Chicago. I hope this has been enjoyable. This is also a great little bonus warm-up exercise if you're stuck in an apartment right now, or maybe you have some babies around, or your spouse is in the other room doing a meeting and can't have you playing super loud. It's a really soft exercise, but it really works out so much of the things that you need to really be nailing the fundamentals of the clarinet. So it's a really, really powerful exercise. I'm so grateful that I stumbled upon this on YouTube. It's been really helpful in my playing since I've started doing it, and I hope that it's helpful in your playing as you start to do it and as I challenge you to do it for this week. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Maybe at a slightly different time, depending on the craziness of the world, but I'll make sure that you know about that if the time does change. So in the meantime, happy practicing, and I'll see you next week sometime.